Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. They say get back, we say. They say get back, we say. Get back. Get back. Thank you, brothers and sisters. It's so good to be here at this Workers' World Party Conference of 2017. And I must say this as a biographical note. First of all, let me thank the young lady that introduced me today. Give her a big hand. I'm so glad to see we have freedom fighters coming out of Rutgers University and young people ready to commit themselves to the struggle for revolutionary transformation. And she mentioned a little bit of my background, so I'm going to add a sentence to it. I've been asked to speak many places, but this is the first time in my life of 63 going on 64 years that I've ever spoken at a party conference, and I'm glad it is at the party conference of the People's Organization for Progress' foremost ally, the Workers' World Party. Before I say anything else, I want you to know that I did not come alone this morning. I brought some of our comrades from the People's Organization for Progress. If you could just allow me to introduce a few of them who are here this morning. One, I think you know, I could call him our ambassador to the Workers' World Party, and that's Brother Amanifu Williams. Give him a big hand. Brother Amanifu. The vice chairwoman of the People's Organization for Progress, and the person that really makes it run, our dear sister, who I love from the bottom of my heart, Vice Chairwoman Ingrid Hill. Give her a big hand. Stand up, Ingrid, don't wave yet. Give her a big hand, Ingrid Hill. No stranger to you. He has spoken at other events of the Workers' World Party and the International Action Center. Our firebrand Vice Chairman Larry Adams. Give him a big hand, he's here. And I'm going to call the name of other members I see. If I miss anybody, don't beat me up afterwards. But Tyrone Lockett, Salima Hadi, Diane Colson, and Sister Lisa Davis. Would y'all stand? Give them all a big hand. My first order of business, brothers and sisters, is actually not to welcome you, although you have asked me to do that today. But my first order of business is to thank you, to say thank you for the stalwart support that the Workers' World Party and people like Sister Sarah Flounders has given to the People's Organization for Progress. Very few newspapers, in fact, I can't name any at this particular moment, but very few newspapers has given as much coverage to events of the People's Organization for Progress as has the Workers' World. And I thank you, and I thank you for all the support, those of you who have come out to our demonstrations against war, who have come out to our demonstrations against police brutality, who have come out to our demonstrations against racist violence. It is this type of solidarity that we must take into the 21st century to build the movement which is not our aspiration, but which is our imperative, the movement for the revolutionary transformation of this society. We must build that movement, and it must be built on the type of solidarity that has existed between the People's Organization for Progress and the Workers' World Party. So now my task at hand. I welcome you. I welcome you to Newark, New Jersey, Brick City, on the 50th anniversary of the 1967 Newark Rebellion. "50 years ago, I was 13 years old, a little boy living at 527 South 12th Street in Newark, New Jersey. And on the night of July 13th, somebody said, Springfield Avenue is on fire. And that night, the police had stopped a black cab driver, John Smith. They stopped him, I believe, at Fairmount and Springfield Avenue. And they dragged him to the 17th Avenue precinct, which is still there today. A police precinct that had a notorious reputation. It was known that if you were taken into that police station alive, you might not come out, and you might be carried out. And when the police beat Smith and took him to the police station, people thought that that was his fate. And shortly thereafter, grassroots organizations had a demonstration in front of that 17th Avenue precinct. And that demonstration led to a confrontation between the police and the demonstrators in the Hayes Home housing project. That police station was in the center of, at that time, the most populous black community in the United States. More black people lived within the square mile that contained Stella Wright, Scudder Homes, and Hayes Homes than any other place in the United States. People could literally look out of their windows down onto the police station where they saw the demonstration. And that demonstration and that confrontation led to the 1967 unrest in this city. Now, some people call it a riot, but in the People's Organization for Progress, which for 30 years has called it something else, and most people in Newark today don't call it a riot. If it had been a riot, it had been something that could have been put down, Brother Ezekaway, by the police in Newark. But the 1,300-member police force could not put it down. And Governor Hughes had to declare a state of emergency. He sent in 700 state troopers, and the police and the state troopers could not put it down. And then, when all else failed, they called in the Army. They called in the National Guard. 1,500 National Guardsmen, 700 state troopers, 1,300 police, and for 5 days, the people of Newark rose up against racist repression. For 5 days, we fought back, and that is why we do not call it a riot. We call it a rebellion. It was the Newark Rebellion of 1967. But it wasn't the only rebellion. It wasn't even the first rebellion here in New Jersey. The whole period was a period of uprisings. From 1960 to 1971, there were more than 1,000 urban uprisings in the United States. More than 1,000 urban uprisings. In this state, there were 27, every major city. The first uprising was in 1966 in Jersey City. But that caught fire, and then there was an uprising in Plainfield, and just rising up wasn't enough. they seized the armory and the weapons in Plainfield, and nobody was killed in the Plainfield Rebellion. That period was a period of revolutionary fervor, and it gave added impetus to the Black Power movement. This city was an apartheid city. It was a majority black city controlled by a white minority and a white political structure. And people had had enough. Enough was enough. And they rose up. And in 1966, there was an attempt to elect a black mayor, but it failed. And people say there was so much destruction in Newark. They say millions of dollars. They say how terrible that was. But I say it was not terrible. Property may have been destroyed, but people's consciousness was transformed, and it was the uprising of 1967 that led to the movement to smash racial apartheid in Newark and elect the first black mayor, Ken Gibson, in 1970. In this hotel, where we sit right now, was the victory celebration. It was like the election of Nelson Mandela. I kid you not, when Gibson was elected in 1960, black people literally danced down the street because we had brought political apartheid to an end in this city. And where we're sitting now was where the victory celebration was held. And that Black Power movement did not end in 1970. In 1974, we elected a predominantly black city council. And in 1971, students marched out of a high school led by somebody named Larry Hamm. And we marched down to the Gateway Hotel, right across the street from Penn Station. Many of you probably saw it. 500 of us marched. 200 of us got inside, took over the 5th and 6th floors of the Gateway, and the mayor had to come and talk to us. And as a result of that student power movement, a young man named Larry Hamm, 17 years old, appointed to the Newark Board of Education, the youngest person to serve on a school board in the history of the United States of America. So I welcome you to Newark on this 50th anniversary. And I am cheering about the slogan for your conference. Yes, we must smash white supremacy and we must smash capitalism. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And I welcome our comrades from Durham who have been vilified in the press, who've been called criminals for their action. But what they did in Durham, pulling down the symbols of white supremacy, was not a crime. It was a revolutionary act, and they are revolutionary heroes. And in the 2 minutes I have left, how could I leave this podium and not say at least a word about this being the 100th anniversary of the great October proletarian revolution? I am not afraid to stand here and celebrate with you what happened in 1917. Because although some of us and most of us probably lament what has happened in the last decade, the fact of the matter is that the October proletarian revolution was one of the greatest historical events in the emancipation of humanity from exploitation. And so we celebrate that great event. But we're not here today. You have not gathered here for your party conference to celebrate the past. You've come to discuss the present and to plan for the future. Now more than ever before, we must unite the progressive forces in this country. During World War II, a united front was formed to defeat fascism. And we see a fascist movement arising in this country today. And just as a half century ago, people had to unite to defeat fascism in the world, we must unite the progressive forces to defeat fascism and the racist fascist Trump regime that is in Washington, D.C. today. So let us build a movement against war. War is the enemy of all humanity. War is killing children all over the world. War is causing untold suffering. U.S. imperialism is engaged in more than 60 military operations in countries all over the world. War is the enemy of humanity. And we must build a movement to harness the greatest advocate of war today, which is U.S. imperialism. We must bring U.S. imperialism to an end and harness the great resources of our nation for the benefit of humanity. In a country this wealthy, there's no reason why we can't have universal health care for every citizen. In a country this wealthy, there's no reason why students have to become indentured servants to the banks with $30,000 and $40,000 of loans. We should have free college education for every young person in the United States of America. So I thank you, Workers' World Party, for coming to Newark, for having this conference, and let us unite and build a movement of all humanity, of all races, of all human beings, to build a better world for all people in this country and in the world today. Power to the people.